Welcome to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson from Protein Machining, and this week I'm joined by Juan March of Jax Precision. Welcome, Juan.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good, thanks for coming on. So before we jump into your backstory, where can people find you? Instagram, social media, wherever?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram pretty much every day. JaxMFG. My website's the same thing, jaxmfg.com. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, let's get back into it then. How did you become Jax Precision? How did you get to where you are?
Yeah, and I guess I'll just tell the whole story. So I'm the first person in my family to be in manufacturing. I kind of started in college. I went to college for mechanical engineering. And when I was in college, I had a buddy who wanted to do a robotics competition. So, at that point, I pretty much had no experience in CAD, CAM, engineering, like real engineering. Hadn't really done anything. Certainly hadn't had any machining experience. So we wanted to do this NASA robotic mining competition. So we started doing that. I think we started with Inventor and, started modeling this robot. A lot of 80/20 and like kind of off-the-shelf components involved. And I don't know, we probably spent a month or two modeling this thing. And kind of realized one day that we had to actually build this thing too, to take it to the competition. Yeah, so we went down to the machine shop and kind of just jumped right into it. I remember the very first part I tried to make, it was like, just like a piece of bar stock with some holes in it. And I probably had to mill it to length or something. But I chucked a drill up in the spindle of a Bridgeport mill. And my intention was to, side mill with that drill bit. And,
Oh, no.
And I was kind of looking at it and I was like, man, this doesn't really look like it's going to do what I want it to do. So I asked the lab person over there, and they were like, yeah, man, you're going to need an end mill for that. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience in manufacturing. And, I guess I probably finished that part at some point. And I got a lot of like manual experience just there at school, running manual lathe, Bridgeport mill, just like bandsaw, that kind of stuff, and just kind of fell in love with it.
Awesome. What was the format of that competition? Like, what was the robot supposed to do?
Yeah, so that's like I said, it's the NASA robotic mining competition, and the intention of the competition is like one day NASA wants to like send people to Mars or to the moon or whatever, and they would like to be able to like mine for basically fuel containing minerals, I guess, like I don't know, like hydrogen and oxygen or something. I don't know. Maybe that chemistry works out for combustion. But yeah, they want to like mine material on other planets and to be able to turn it into fuel, so they don't have to like carry fuel for the return journey all the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So that competition is based on that. Basically, like you build your robot, you start on one side of this big field, and you drive across like an obstacle field, and you get all the way to the other end, which is, let's just say, like 50 feet or something. And at the far end, like you can mine up to like a meter deep. And you fill your robot like a dump truck. Like you'll fill like your hopper on your robot, and you'll return back to like where you started and dump it off. And you've got, I think, 10 minutes to make as many trips as you want. And kind of the goal is to mine as much material as you can. So people build all kinds of crazy stuff. Like you'll see like, kind of like bulldozer looking robots with tracks, or like, four-wheeled robots more similar to like the actual, like, what do they call them? The rovers that they have on like Mars. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We had going back to the college too, we had a room with all manual machines. And then we had a room next door with a Haas mini mill, and I think an ST20 later. So, I was like kind of looking through the window of that room and looking at those machines, and I was like, geez, that shit seems kind of way over my head. But eventually we got there,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like other students kind of helped me along the way, getting into CNC. So
that's really cool. So
yeah, that's where that all started.
You fell in love, and then how did that progress from, doing mining competitions to starting your own shop?
Yeah, so I had a couple of internships in college. One of them was at a company called a Stenner Pump Company, and they make kind of like small peristaltic pumps is what they're called, for like a feed water system. So they'll drip like small amounts of chemicals into large bodies of water. And that was like a cool engineering job, and they had some manufacturing. Well, they had a lot of manufacturing going on there, but it was a lot of injection molding. And they kind of had like a support CNC department too for, like working on molds and stuff like that. And I had another internship simultaneously at a company called Siptech, and we were building an R&D sort of pipelining robot for refurbishing like water mains. Because like right now, like let's say like Miami has a water main that's leaking. There's pretty much 2 or 3 things they can do to remedy that, and they're all very expensive. I mean, the first is like you can dig up that pipe and replace it. And, to do that, obviously you have to shut down water to a portion of the city for some period of time, probably. Or you can send humans down there to do repairs. You can wrap the inside of the pipe with carbon fiber and some other coatings to kind of, refurbish any holes that might be in the pipe. But we were trying to do that robotically. So we were building there were like 4 different robotic units to this thing, and we were doing it all in house. We were doing all the design, all the manufacturing and stuff like that. So at that internship, I was kind of just like, I guess my title was manufacturing engineer, but I mostly just was a machinist. Like I just ran the VF2 over there all day long. And that kind of turned into me running parts after hours. I actually became a Xometry partner while I was there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I took pictures of our shop at work and uploaded them to Xometry. Like, yeah, this is my shop, man. This is where I do all my work. So they let me be a Xometry partner. And, I probably did that for 6 months maybe, working there after hours, making parts. And I saved up enough for a VF2 of my own. But, even up to that point, it was still it was going to be difficult to take the leap into, my own shop space and stuff, like signing a 3-year lease at whatever it is, $2,000-$3,000 a month or whatever. I just didn't really see that happening. But I had a buddy from college who started working at a new company doing industrial automation. So they would build custom machines. They need a lot of custom parts. And his boss was basically they were having a bunch of trouble getting parts quickly and, quality at a good price. It's pretty much all 8 to 12 week lead times here in Jax for most shops. Yeah, so it's he told his boss that I kind of wanted to do the shop thing, and his boss called me and he was like, "Hey man, why don't you come over here and we'll give you 300, 400 square feet. You don't got to worry about paying rent. Get your machine, put it in here, and make us parts. Prioritize us parts. Make them quickly, and we'll just pay you like a regular shop. So that was kind of a crazy deal, and that really made it possible for me to step out on my own.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I had guaranteed work and no rent to pay. So
And
couldn't have asked for a better opportunity, really.
Is that where you currently are still?
Yeah. So I'm still occupying that space, but they have since moved down to Tampa, which is 2 hours south of where we are now, because they got, I guess, semi-acquired by a larger company.
Oh, wow.
So so they moved down to Tampa, but they can't break the lease on the shop that they're in. Plus, they still have a bunch of stuff there that they haven't moved down. So I probably got another 10 or 12 months in my current space, and then I got to start looking.
That's awesome. What a great kickstart to your company.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, but it worked out for sure.
That's really cool. So what, I guess, services and what machinery do you have, and what's the deal with Jax?
Yeah, so right now it's just me. And I guess my fiance's brother is here helping me out right now. Just me and a VF2 SS, and I guess I got a second one on the way too, actually.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, I just ordered that 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we'll see when that shows up. I guess Haas is having problems getting castings right now, so that'll probably be another couple months at least. I mean, it's just general CNC job shop for the most part. I do a lot of aluminum, a bit of stainless here and there, a lot of plastic too. Mostly low quantity stuff. A lot of one-off, a lot of less than 10 quantity. But I do some production here and there as well. I got my first real production job this year back in March, I think. And that's what the second machine is for. So yeah, it's a pretty good mix. I do some part modifications as well. It's kind of all over the place. I'm not really specializing in anything in particular right now.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like if the market is at 8 to 12 weeks and you can deliver anywhere under that, it sounds like you've got your pick of the litter there.
Yeah, for sure. And that and the whole kind of free rent, low overhead thing, I can be pretty competitive on pricing too, for now at least. Kind of trying to keep that in mind for the future, because I don't really want to set expectations too low, when I do actually start having more overhead.
Yeah, I totally understand that struggle. As another small shop and very low overhead right now, I've tried to both be competitive, but not to the point where it's in a year when I'm full-time, oh, well, why is the price more now? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of jumps perfectly into one of our questions from Instagram. The CNC man asked, how did you start getting job shop work, and how do you start finding job shop work?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, the first work that I really had was Xometry, which, I mean, probably anybody on Xometry can probably attest to the fact that's kind of a love-hate relationship. And it can be kind of difficult to find profitable work on there. And my buddy with the automation company, that was my first 2 customers, really.
Awesome. And they've kept you busy enough that, I mean, it sounds like you found some other production work as well, but
Yeah, I've been in business since August of 2019, I believe. So I don't know what that is, like a year and a half, let's say.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, for the first 3 or 4 months, I mean, there might have been, you know, week or two spans where I was like doing nothing except for just like goofing off in the shop and doing like shop improvement projects. But going back to the low overhead thing, like I could kind of do that, like if I could just make, $3,000 a week, like that was a pretty good week back then. That could pay my bills and allow me to have a little fun at the shop.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. And
Yeah, and then
then
and then
what
go
about
ahead,
now?
sorry.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, look, how do you find work now? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're still doing stuff for that automation company.
yeah. I still do a lot of stuff for the automation company. My website has actually turned a few pretty decent leads. That's been good. I mean, just people finding me on Google. That's also kind of a hit and miss sort of thing. Like if you've got a website on Google, and especially being in an area where my shop is located, like you'll get a lot of dudes like calling you off the street, like hey man, you all bore out cylinder heads, and like
Uh huh.
can you make my rims a little bigger, and just all kinds of nonsense like that. And you got to get in the habit of turning those guys away, probably.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
unless you want to do that stuff, because I mean, these guys are buying they're buying rims for, let's say, $1,000, and then you tell them, yeah, I can make that bore in your rim bigger, but it's going to cost you $1,000. Like
Right.
they're
Oh
going to
yeah.
spit in your face. So,
Yeah. No, I've
there's
had
no
quite a
money to
few
be made
calls
there.
like that. Like, oh, can you surface my flywheel? It's like, no, I'm not. That's not me.
Nope,
Sorry.
we don't do anything automotive over here. It's like, you don't?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've had people contact me like, "Oh, can you turn down this thing for my bench press?" And I'm like, "No, like that's what about my website made you think that's the kind of work
Yeah.
I do?"
Yeah, they just search machine shop and they don't do any reading. They just call the phone number, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and yeah, I'm still on Xometry too. I don't take too many jobs from there, but I mean, I'll pop into the job board every once in a while and take a look.
it seems like it's getting better again.
Dude, it
Finally,
does, yeah. I think there's just so much work going on right now. Maybe because of like loosening COVID restrictions, I don't know. But it's just like I just popped up my job board right now, and there are 62 jobs on there. I mean,
jeez.
yeah, I mean, like I'm scrolling down right now, and a lot of these are like not good. But there's probably two or three good jobs in here.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, they keep emailing and pinging me like, "Hey, we've increased pricing and like
Yep.
increased lead time and all that, so
Yep.
that you can actually get this work."
Yeah.
Because for a while it was really bad. It was like, I can't buy material for what you're
Exactly,
saying
man.
this part
I
costs.
know. It's insane. It was insane for a while. And I would tell them I've kind of gotten into some heated arguments with those guys over there actually. I probably should watch my mouth, but yeah, I've had some kind of nasty phone calls with Xometry. But actually kind of on the same subject, I got ITAR registration, I don't know, last year. And I started getting ITAR work on Xometry, and that's been pretty good too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, those are actually pretty profitable.
So are you still using Inventor then?
Yeah, I like Inventor. Fusion's cool too, but I mean, like Inventor is like the same thing. It probably costs a little more, I think, but I just kind of much prefer like the sketching and the assembly environment in Inventor over Fusion.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if that's what you learned on it, that makes
yeah,
sense.
for sure. And I kind of just find like I said, like they're the same thing, but Inventor is kind of like the stable branch of Fusion.
Oh yeah.
Like it seems like every week, like when Fusion updates, somebody's posting like, "Oh, Fusion's crashing again." It's like, which being not cloud based, Inventor doesn't really have that problem.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, very cool. Let's see. J Fedig Machine asks, "Tell me 10 reasons why you love Uline catalogs."
yeah,
How many, trash cans full of them do you have?
exactly. Everybody who's made like a single order from Uline knows how many Uline catalogs you get after that. It
I've
just
never even
seems
made
like
a Uline order and I still get them. Like, I don't know
yeah,
how.
yeah. I don't know, man. Like it seems like every time I open my mailbox, there's a Uline catalog in it, and then like I'll get my Uline order that week, and there'll be like two Uline catalogs in the box. I'm just like, how are you guys affording this?
Yeah.
Like
If
they
anybody
charge,
from Uline is listening, stop with
please.
the catalogs. We don't need them.
Yeah, like they overcharge for shipping, and then they like include like these 3 pound catalogs in the box.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just need to start like tearing out the pages and using it for packing material or something. And I'll start being money plus there.
Yeah, AB Tools uses them to pack their tools in, actually.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, so Tom Machinist has a whole bunch of questions. So let's jump into those. First one, when will you buy a lathe?
Yeah. If any of you guys who have kind of been looking at these, I guess you could call them hubs, these like hub parts that I'm making, that's the production job that I mentioned earlier. I mean, they're like total lathe parts, but they're kind of big. I mean, the smallest one that I make is, what is it, like 5 inch diameter. And, like I could get a lathe with a 5 inch bar feeder, but that's like kind of big and it probably wouldn't be a Haas. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of lazy. I don't really want to learn a new control. So, like, if I was going to buy a lathe for this job, I'd want it to be a Haas, and Haas doesn't make a bar feeder big enough. So, I don't know. I mean, eventually I'll get a lathe.
Eventually.
But, I kind of just I got another VF2. It's pretty much identical to the one I have, and it's kind of just because, like, that's working, and I can load up, probably like 8 or 9 of these parts on the VF2 at once. And, I can run those cycles for like half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is. Whereas like with a Haas lathe, they would all be single load. So
right.
that's kind of the thought process on that.
Yeah, and you had the nice fixture. I'm assuming that's the fixture you posted the other day?
Yeah, I got a couple
vise?
orange vise. Yeah, I got a couple orange vise dual stations and some pallets to go with them. So I made some of those pallets that hold 3 parts each. So actually I got 3 dual station vices. So, 3 times 3 is 9, and they're about, I don't know, 2.5 minutes a piece on op 2 or something like that. So they're like 8 minutes a piece, I guess, all the way through for the whole part.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Very cool. Well, yeah,
But that's
it
some
sounds
pretty
like you've got
decent
a
cycles, right? Just to kind of sit back and chill,
Yeah, especially if you got 2 machines. I mean, if it's not taking up your only spindle, then that totally makes sense.
Yeah, because that's the difficult part about 2 machines. And like I said, most of my work is prototype stuff, and you can't really like prototype on 2 machines at once. Because
Right.
you're kind of at the machine running that single part.
Believe
So
me,
the only way
I
that
know
works
that.
is you got to have a production job, and you got to. I mean, ideally, maybe you would have 2 production jobs, but you can also do 1 production job and then prototyping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the rest of his questions, I was looking through your Instagram, and I've always wanted to ask you like your approach to vacuum work holding, because you make more custom vacuum pallets than I think I've ever seen anybody use.
Yeah, I really like vacuum work holding. Actually, it's worked out really well for me. I find it to be like pretty easy to use. I kind of like slapping the button on the VPU and walking away. Like, I don't know. I probably make more vacuum fixtures. Like, I probably justify vacuum fixtures more than other people would. Like, if I've got like, a run of maybe 40 parts and they're flat and like vacuum would work pretty good, like I'll probably bust out a vacuum fixture for it. Other people might not do that, but I guess I've just gotten like, I think I've gotten like pretty decent at making them.
So
I've gotten good
what's
at
your
running the
workflow for
Pearson
that?
gasket.
Because
Yeah,
you don't use a Pearson base, right? You just make solid fixtures.
yeah. I just grab a piece of bar stock and make it into a fixture. Like most of that stuff is going to be single use. So like, I'll just take some bar stock, cut it to, let's just say like 6 inches, and I'll throw it in the vise. And I'll take a skim pass with the face mill. And I guess backing up a little bit, like in CAM and CAD, I usually model the fixture like within the part file in Inventor, and I just make it a separate body.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can hide the actual part body, and then I can do some separate CAM on the fixture. But
Right.
like I'll just use like I don't know what they call it in Fusion, but like project geometry. Is that the same thing in Fusion?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, I'll just do a bunch of like project geometry, and like I'll use features on the part to align it. Like if like an op 1 on the part, maybe I did op 1 in a vise and I put some holes in it. Like I'll put some bosses on the vacuum fixture, and I'll use those for alignment. And then I just kind of make like the biggest gasket pattern that I can. Obviously, because like more surface area equals more holding force in vacuum. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that helps.
What about running the line? Like, where do you put the holes for it? Because I'm assuming you're not drilling through the side of the fixture.
A lot of times I'll just drill straight through the bar stock. Like if it's inch thick, I'll just drill straight through, and then I'll just tap the backside NPT.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you just run it up. You're holding the fixture in a vise and running it up like through where the parallels are, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll put a 90-degree NPT fitting on there, like one of the swivel ones that uses just like 1/4 inch swivel fitting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just put one of those on there and just run the vacuum through the bottom. That kind of results in you having to take the fixture out of the vise and tap the bottom, but I'll just hand tap the NPT.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be perfect. So
Well, I suppose you could even do it backwards and just drill and tap and then flip it and do your whole
yeah,
fixture or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, I like that a lot because I have two like vacuum pallets I've made or vacuum fixtures that I put pallets on, but like that can be fairly time consuming, and I love that approach of just making it work really quick and getting the parts done.
Yeah, man, just busting them out. Like, I mean, I won't do it for everything, but if the cost of the job justifies it, I mean, the aluminum might cost $10 and it takes me, half an hour to make the fixture. That's not so bad.
No, not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
especially prototype prices and all
Mm-hmm.
that. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Okay. Tom Machinist also asked, how do you manage your shitload of aluminum chips?
Yeah. So that production job is making a lot of chips. I just ordered 20,000 pounds of round bar,
Ooh.
and these parts are about 65% material removal. So, you do the math, it's like 12,000 pounds of aluminum I got to get rid of. I previously had just one IBC tote, like those big plastic totes with kind of the metal cage around them that they
Mhm.
store like, liquid in. And I just cut the plastic top off of that, and I was putting my chips in there. And you can fit about 1,000 pounds of chips in there if you're using a chip breaker rougher. And your chips are pretty small. But if I'm running pretty hard, like all day, like if I do a 10 or 12 hour day in the shop making those parts, I fill that thing and then some. So I had to get some dump poppers. I guess that's what they're called. You pull the little chain on the back and they dump.
Right.
So I just got two of those for kind of overflow chips. And kind of my cadence is like I'll fill those two like residual chip bins up, and then I'll throw the IBC tote in the back of my truck. And my shop is at dock height, so I'll back the truck up to the dock, and I'll shovel out from those residual chip bins or the dump bins like into the back of my truck basically. So it's pretty like manual labor intensive right now, but it's kind of the best solution I've got, I think, because I don't have a forklift, and like I said, the shop is at dock height, so I mean, they got to get out. They got to get out like via forklift or via shovel.
So you're going like every couple days then, though.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm running, my relationship with that customer is good. Whereas, like, there's a guy named Dan that'll come and pick up every like 2 or 3 days, and he'll just be like, "Hey, man, can you switch over to these next?" And or he'll say like, "Hey, we're good for a few days. You don't got to worry about anything." So, I mean, if I'm running hard, like, yeah, I can fill those up in a day or two. But yeah, I guess I go to the scrapyard like probably, I don't know, once or twice a week right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of try to do it all at once too. Like I can only really take one trip a day. Like I live pretty close to the scrapyard, so I'll usually like drive home with my chips, and then I'll take them in the morning and go to the shop. But I'm kind of lazy about it. Like I'll let them pile up as long as I can, and then I'll go. So yeah,
Oh yeah, I know that feeling for sure. You play
yeah,
chip chicken with yourself.
yeah. But I had to get those overflow bins because it was like getting to the point where like the VF2 was filling with chips because I was out of space. Like I had like 7 5-gallon buckets all full, and I had my chip bin full, and I had my trash cans full. So
Oh
I kind of
jeez,
had to get more overflow space.
that's rough. His next question was, how much do you sleep? Because it seems like you are just constantly going.
It probably looks like I'm working harder than I am. I get pretty normal sleep, I think. Like I've been trying to get home earlier, but usually I get home around like 7, and I don't really rush getting into the shop in the morning either. Like I'll wake up at like 7 or 8, and I'll usually roll in around 9. Kind of a more of an evening worker, I guess. So yeah, I mean, sleep is
That's
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a problem right now.
good.
Yeah. Guys like, gosh, what's his name? Pat at Old Boys.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that dude sleeps.
it doesn't seem like it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
His next question, what coolant do you run?
I think this is leading into Tom making fun of me here in a minute, but we'll go with it. I just switched to Qualichem 250C,
Okay.
and it's okay, I guess. I don't know. It's coolant. I was running Blazer before that, and again, it's okay. It's coolant, but it's like $250 per pail, which is just ridiculous.
Was
And
that the 735?
yeah, the Synergy.
Yeah, that stuff was
Um,
crazy expensive.
Yeah, man, it was insane. And like, it's like pretty sticky stuff. And like, the whole marketing gimmick behind it is like, oh, it's clear so you can see what you're doing. But like, if you've ever seen like a river running, like, like white water, like you agitate water and like it turns white, so you can't see anything anyways.
Right.
So that whole marketing gimmick kind of goes out the window. I guess it's nice in the sump because you can see like to the bottom of your sump. But yeah, Yeah, it's just like sticky. It's expensive. It's coolant, whatever.
I always found it like pretty good on my skin versus like some other stuff.
Yeah, I actually had the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe I just ran it long enough, but yeah, my fingers started getting real nasty, man. Like pussy, like hives and stuff in my finger. It was gross.
Ooh.
So yeah, it was getting pretty bad.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, it seemed if I would get a cut, like if I'd cut myself on a like undeburred piece of stock or whatever, and like I got it in the coolant, then that was just a recipe for like a finger infection, basically. But
Oh,
yeah, I was like going to the doctor about it and stuff. It was bad.
yikes. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I know like some machine tool builders won't even allow synthetic stuff in their machines.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's so hit and miss with coolant. Like people were complaining about it, like tearing the paint out of their machine and stuff. Like I never had any problems like that. Overall, it was fine, but I'm not excited to pay $250 for some coolant.
Yeah, and Qualicam's what, half that, something like that.
Yeah, Qualichem it's like 170 or something maybe.
Yeah. Well, his next question, was probably poking fun at you then. He said, if you pour me a beer, should I expect as much foam as you make in your machine?
Man, that'd be a pretty big beer. But what Tom is alluding to is that when I switched to Qualichem, I also got Qualichem's cleaner, like Met Clean 157 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the side of the bucket and it said like, "I'll mix this stuff, 3% or whatever it said." And I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And I just turned that bucket on its side and just kind of poured some into the sump and poured some water in or whatever, and started running it through the system. And I walked away for like, I don't know, half an hour or so, or whatever it was. And I came back and my machine is like a bubble bathtub, man. It's like like 3 feet of foam just sitting in there. And I just couldn't get it out. I spent the whole day like taking water out and putting fresh water in, like trying to dilute it out. And I did that for like literally probably 5 hours that day. And I couldn't get the foam to go down. So I ended up having to like pull the whole sump and like take it outside off the dock. And like I had to go like run around our commercial complex, like asking people if they've got a garden hose. I like finally found a garden hose and like rinsed this thing out. And that solved the problem. But the whole day was shot because I, wasn't really paying attention to my cleaner mix ratio.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh boy. Yeah, that sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
And then his last one was, how do you like your 3M Bluetooth earmuffs?
Okay, this also might be Tom making fun of me for wearing them backwards all the time. But yeah, the 3M Work Tunes, I think they're called. They're pretty cool. I mean, they work. They play sound. They're not like Bose headphones or anything, but they're good for listening to podcasts and whatnot. They work like earplugs or whatever. So they're all sound reducing. A little bit uncomfortable though. I got kind of large ears, I think, larger than the average guy. So they kind of hurt my ears after a while. But yeah, they're pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So before we jump into our last question, I think today that you were using TSC.
Yeah.
So how is your VF2 optioned and how's your new one optioned? Did you do anything different?
Let's see. It's got 1,000 PSI through spindle. The current one does. It's got the coolant maintenance package, which is like the mist condenser, auto coolant refill, which sucks. Doesn't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's total garbage. I mean, like, really, I guess what the problem is, like, you have to have like pretty high pressure water coming in to the system for it to mix properly.
Okay.
And it's kind of a known problem. And Haas's solution for it is like they tell you like, oh, put a smaller nozzle on like the output of the coolant mixer because it's increased the back pressure and it makes the system work better. So I did that and it did improve it, but like it's not really a great solution for coolant management because I mean I guess most people would probably agree that like if you're running like a lot of parts and you're making a lot of mist, like most of that's going to be water. And, a lot of the oil gets kind of left behind. It doesn't evaporate out. So like after a while, you can have like a really high coolant concentration. That and like it also doesn't mix at the proper ratios. Like you can say put 8% coolant in and it'll put out like 3%. And you can play with all the adjustments on it and stuff, like all of the software adjustments. Like you can tell it to put in like 28% coolant and it's still going to put in like 3 or 4. So
oh, weird.
Yeah, it doesn't really do what I need it to do. Maybe if I get some higher pressure water coming into there, it might be better. But yeah, not super stoked about that thing. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's like fairly standard for a VF2. It's got high-speed machining. It came with the auto doors. I didn't order them, but I definitely like the auto doors. They're pretty sweet. They're great for running production, just like if you're running 100 or 200 parts, like just opening and closing that door is like a lot of fatigue over time. So auto doors are
Totally.
sweet. It's got like the high intensity lights that turn on when you open the door. Those are kind of gimmicky, but they're kind of cool too.
You can never have too much light.
Yeah, exactly. That thing is like a freaking film studio inside though. It's really bright, which is nice. I think that might be it. 30 tool changer. I think that's standard. 30 plus 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, and I got the double chip auger on that thing too, which, I mean, everybody knows that Haas chip evacuation is pretty bad. And the double chip auger makes it like a little bit less bad. So I didn't actually get the double auger on my new machine because it's like $5,000 more, and it's like a marginal improvement. Like chips still pile up in the back, so you're doing the same work, like getting chips out.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, like other than that, the second machine is pretty much the same. It's got auto doors. It's got 1,000 psi.
Probing.
All that stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, probing, of course. I can't even imagine like machining without probing anymore. So it kind of slipped my mind that like that's even a thing.
Right. It's a no-brainer at this
Yeah.
point. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Like I will never buy another machine without probing.
Yeah, man. I used to do what are they called, the Heimer probe and all that stuff, all the edge finders. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great solution if you can't get probing, but man, if you can get it, like you should get it.
Yeah, I mean, it works and it pays for itself so fast. You know, like I think to get your Haas optioned with a Renishaw probe is like $4,000 or $5,000, and like, you know, you do like 100 tool setups and you probably paid for that.
Oh yeah, and you have tool setting as well because that's a full package, right?
Yeah, it all comes together.
Yeah, I mean that for me was like the big force multiplier is loading up 20 something tools and just telling the machine, all right, you set them, I'll be back.
Yep. Tool set, sequential, walk away.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, it sounds like you've had enough experience now that you knew what you didn't need anymore. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So our last question was from the Discord. Magister Factotum asked, he saw you were using machine broaching. What's the best strategy for that? And his other question was, what's your favorite public sub?
Cool. Okay. Yeah, the machine broaching is super cool. These production parts I'm making right now, they've all got keyways in them. And I had originally, like, I got a PO for like, I don't know what it was. It was like 300 of these parts or something like that. And I actually bought like a manual broach off of McMaster that I was going to use in my arbor press. And I received it and I looked at it and I was like looking at a part. And I was like, man, I'm gonna die if I try to broach 300 parts. Like, I don't think I can do it. And then it occurred to me that like I have this cool CNC machine that'll just do it for me. So I got I think the company is called like CNC Broach Tools, and they make like keyway broaches in all the standard sizes. And you just like you put like this little broach tool in a ER collet, and you do like a spindle orient, and you have to indicate it in like square with whatever axis that you want to broach in. And I actually had to do some manual programming, but Haas makes it really easy. They've got like a broaching macro.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's sweet. You put in like 4 or 5 parameters, and it'll do the broaching for you. You put in like I guess depth of cut, like how deep to go, how much to back off after a cut, and like starting position and starting angle, kind of. And like that's it. It just does it. It's sweet. So I can broach a part in the machine in like 2 minutes, I think. So I mean, it takes a while, but it's certainly faster than doing it manually. I would think, and it's consistent. Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of step over are you using for that?
I use 2 thou, and it probably does. I mean, I'm pretty much guessing, but it probably does like 40 or 50 passes or something.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's all like 100% rapid, and you actually feed it quick. You feed it like, like 350 inches a minute or something. So like it's pretty scary when you're setting it up because you're just ramming a tool down into a part at 350 inches a minute, you know. So it's pretty sketchy setting it up, but it works great. I ordered some extra inserts, but I haven't used any. I've made, I don't know, 700-800 parts or something with one insert on these broach tools, and they're just going, no issues.
That's nice that it's indexable. I didn't realize it was.
Yeah, they just come with little carbide inserts. They're TIN coated, a little bit pricey, but I mean, in aluminum, they're just going to last forever, and you can regrind them too.
Awesome. Yeah, and it sounds like it's well worth it.
Yeah, and then favorite pub sub, it's chicken tender, man. That's it. Chicken tender sub. You get like tomatoes, lettuce, salt and pepper. Whatever cheese you're feeling that day. Maybe some spicy mustard and some mayo. That's it.
Well, there you go.
That's all you need.
So that brings us on to shop news and new things. So you already said you ordered a VF2. What else you got going on? Have you started looking for shop space or?
Nah, I'll probably start looking at shop space in like 7 or 8 months because like I'm definitely not in a rush to start paying rent right now on a shop space. So
I do not blame you.
yep, I'm gonna hang out where I am as long as I can, and then I'll start looking. Shop space is kind of hard to come by in my area. I mean, I guess it's not hard to come by, but like you've got your pick between like really old, really gnarly places or like very nice new places. And I kind of would like something in the middle. I mean, I would like a very nice new place, but I don't want to pay very nice new place prices. So,
Right.
I mean, that being said, I should probably start looking. But at the same time, like you kind of have to like time it perfectly. Like if you find the spot, like you better probably snatch it up. So if I do that, I got to pay rent. So it's like, what's the point of looking so soon?
Oh yeah, yeah. What else you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, other new stuff in the shop. I have gotten some cool new toys lately. I got a Freddy, which is pretty sweet. That's good for cleaning out the sump.
Oh yeah, I wanted to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man, and it's a lot cheaper than a lot of the alternatives too.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I got quotes on. I really don't remember any brand names, but I got quotes on like 3 or 4 different systems, and they're all like I was seeing between like 5 and 7 grand for like kind of similar tools. You can also get the ones that are like a 55-gallon drum with like a vacuum slapped on top.
Mm-hmm.
And those probably work. Those are about 2 grand, I think. But I think the Freddy shipped was like 3 or something, and the build quality is just awesome. It's really good. I got the micro version of it, which I think has a 30-gallon capacity. So really, kind of my only complaint about it is that like I can't suck the whole sump out at once because the sump is 50 gallons. So I mean, I wish I could suck the whole sump out, but I kind of bought it for filtration and not really for like emptying the sump all at once. So that being said, I can suck 30 gallons out and spit it back in and just do that 5 or 6 times and filter out a bunch of chips. But yeah, it's just crazy what you can pull out though.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure that filter bag looks pretty nasty after a couple.
Yeah, so they've got a bunch of different size bags. So like you'd start with like a 100-micron bag, let's say, and I think they have them all the way down to 10. So like when you're running the 100-micron bag, it's just like chips are pulling out. But when you get into the 10-micron, it's just like gray sludge,
Ooh.
Yeah, all those fines. Stuff's nasty.
You said you just switched over to Qualichem, but have you noticed a improvement in coolant life or coolant quality?
I was running the Synergy. I had that stuff in my sump for like probably 14 or 15 months, and it was fine. Like there was no smell, no nastiness really. I mean, it was kind of sticky after a while, I think, but that might have just been like, I don't know, like poor water quality over a long time. Like I do run DI water. So, I mean, I might have gotten a lot of minerals in there over time, and that could have been what the stickiness or like, that could have been why it got sticky. But, yeah, I mean, I had like no problems with the Synergy, and I've only been running the Qualichem for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months at this point. So it might be too early to say, like, I don't know. It's not gross. It's not sticky. It doesn't stink yet. So, I mean, overall, it's been good so far.
Awesome. Well, yeah. The Freddy looks really cool, and coolant filtration is something that's been high in my mind recently.
Yeah, me too. It's just like I mentioned cleaning out the sump when I switched coolant the other day, and like I just noticed like there was a lot of stuff in the sump, man. It was like 2 or 3 inches thick on the bottom. Oof. And I don't really want to let it get that way again. So
yeah, well, I mean, and I guess that's like the benefit of having whatever system, as long as you have a sump sucker, is like if maintenance is easy, you'll always do it versus making it a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Man, I feel like I got like some other things.
You got a laser too, right?
Oh yeah, I got one of those cheapo eBay lasers. It's pretty cool, man. I'm like really impressed with the build quality actually on that thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's just nice. Like it's all like solid aluminum parts. Like it's got the little laser box is all like nice bent sheet metal. It's got like quality buttons on it and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It comes with the software. The software is very Chinese. Got a little bit hard to install because like all of the instructions are also in Chinese.
Oh,
I mean,
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, that's it. It's Chinese, so I mean, but it's nice.
That's really cool. What did it run you, if you don't mind?
I paid $3,000 for it, and you'll see them on eBay from anywhere between like 2,700 up to like 4.5 maybe. But as far as I can tell, they're all the same.
So
I
what
think
made you
that
go with the one you chose versus the $2,500 one?
well, that you kind of see them come up for $2,500 every once in a while, but you'll go and look at like that particular seller's reviews, and they're not good, or there's people like, oh, I didn't get mine or whatever. So it kind of just seems like you maybe want to be like in the middle of that range, I guess.
Gotcha. So you
You
just
get
look
like
for somebody with a good rating.
yeah, just somebody with a good rating who didn't want a crazy amount for it. But I think that, people just import these to the States and they just sit on them and sell them on eBay. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Because, I mean, as far as I can tell, I've seen the same one on Instagram like dozens of times. I don't see any difference. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and I think there's a few companies in the US that rebrand them and put their own software on them too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, I got that laser. I got a nice piece of pink granite because I recently got kind of my first like actual serious aerospace customer. They're a like aircraft maintenance company. So
mhm.
like Southwest Airlines might like land a plane at their airfield and say, hey, this thing's due for maintenance. Check it out and tell us what we need to fix. So this company will basically inspect the plane, and they'll find parts that need to be replaced because they're corroded or they're broken or whatever. And the thing about that is that like every day that plane is sitting on the ground, like that company's not making, however many dollars they make by flying that plane around. So they want those new parts put on the plane like right now. And it's aerospace, so quality is a real thing. So I had their auditor come out to audit me, and he basically said like, you need to get your stuff together over here if you want to make parts for us. So
Oh boy.
yeah, so I had to get like, all the calibration stickers, all the like
Quality
separate tools for
policy.
the calibrate. Yeah, quality policy. Evan at Alton Instruments, he helped me out a lot on that. Thanks, Evan. And yeah, so that was like a expensive, time consuming thing, but it's cool. It had to happen eventually.
Yeah, definitely. Where'd you get the Starrett pink? Because that was a really nice block, it looked like.
Yeah, I just got it from MSC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So got some cool new tools. Got a nice Mitutoyo depth gauge that's going to sit in the quality room and probably not get used that often, which kind of hurts, but it's gotta be there. So
Yep. Sometimes it's about just show and tell versus actual usefulness.
yeah, dude, what's the deal with that CMM that you've got? That thing looks pretty cool.
It's pretty nice. I'm not sure if I've told the whole story on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't think I
before.
know about that thing yet.
So we got it for $100. And actually, to be fully honest, we got it for about $1,200. So what happened is somebody posted it on the Machinist Facebook group at like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. It was just like, hey, nobody will buy this. I put it on OfferUp. I put it on Craigslist. Nobody wants it. First $100 takes it. And I immediately messaged him. I was like, I want it. This is mine. I'm in Arizona. You're in Colorado. I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, but if you can hold it till Friday, we'll figure it out. And my business partner, right now we both work 410s, but he has always worked 410s. And so he's got Fridays off. And so we kind of talked about it all week. And we're like, well, let's just buy you a one-way ticket and you'll rent a U-Haul and drive it back overnight. And that's exactly what we did. So we bought a last minute ticket from Arizona to Colorado, flew him up. He rented a U-Haul and drove it back overnight.
Man, that's not bad. And it worked and everything? Like, it's all good?
Yeah. They said that they had a hard time getting it calibrated. I still haven't had the local people come out and do a full calibration, but like, I don't know, every time I need to measure something tight tolerance, I'll measure a gauge ring first and qualify the probe and then measure a gauge block stack or a gauge ring or something like that to make sure that I'm getting the right reading and then measure my part. And I mean, so far it's all checked out. So
yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of interesting that you say that you qualified the gauge and everything, because I didn't actually know that you could like I don't really know much about quality, to be honest. And I didn't really know that you could kind of do your own like calibrations, so to speak, like on your own tools. Like I didn't know that you could calibrate your own calipers. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
and by calibrate, yeah, exactly. And by calibrate, of course, I don't mean like closing them and hitting the zero button. I mean like actual like do the paperwork on it. I thought you had to have a third party like NIST traceable company, whoever, come in and do that for you. So
typically
Evan
as long as you
that.
have a traceable standard, so like a nice
exactly.
set of
so
blocks
just your gauge
something,
blocks,
then you're golden. So
and separate from the shop floor gauge blocks.
right, yeah. You want an inspection grade set.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was one of those things that kept me on the machinist Facebook group, because otherwise, like 90% of the time, I scroll right past that garbage,
Man,
and occasionally there are the gems like that that pop up.
that is just ridiculous. I've been like drooling over like pretty much every Zeiss machine, especially
Hmm.
that cool Zeiss Duramax, but that thing's probably like 60 grand. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen for a while.
Well, I think even like right now, Titan's doing his whole boombastic sale or whatever, and I think the
Yeah, that goober.
Mitutoyo shop floor, the shop floor scanning one is 69 on sale or something like that.
69,000 or
Yeah.
100? Wow,
No,
yeah, that's crazy.
no, not 6,900. I think the head on that thing is 6,900.
Yeah. Is that the one that you put the part down and it like sees the part and then it moves the probe over it and probes it kind of thing?
No, I think this is just like an automatic CMM. Like you have to
Ah,
program it through their whatever their software is. I don't even know. M Cosmos, I think maybe is Mitutoyo's. I'm not
gotcha.
sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that one from that Area 419 video that Saunders did. Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That thing was sweet. I don't know what that was.
I'm blanking on the company's name. If you ever
Is it
ask
Cognex
them,
maybe or
no,
Keyence?
Keyence, that's what the one. Because I was gonna say, if you ever do
Yep,
any
I know what you're
look
gonna
into,
say.
yeah, they're gonna hound you until you die.
Yeah, I'm gonna click my spam folder in my email right now and tell you how many Keyence emails. There's probably like a dozen in here.
Oh yeah, you ask them for one like brochure, and they're like, oh
Yeah,
well, like you could buy a machine from them, and the next week get a brochure from them. Like, hey, do you want to buy the next version of it?
yeah. Their pricing structure is funny too. Like you can like kind of start talking to them, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, this machine is 60,000," and you can be like, "I don't know, I'll think about it," and they'll call you back like 3 days later and be like, "We can do $35,000 today."
Yep, yep. They're like, oh, it's a one-time deal.
1 day only.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, sure. So where's that bottom line actually at?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do some really cool stuff though, and like their vision systems. One of my favorite demos I've seen of their stuff was at the last IMTS, and it was
Mhm.
a Sugami Swiss that the parts would come out the back of it. A robot would pull it up, dunk it in a cleaning tank, dunk it in an air gun to clean them off, and then put it in front of a keyent system, and it would measure like 20 dimensions, then sort the thing into either a good one
Yeah,
or a bad one, and then auto offset the machine so
that's
that the
so
next one was
badass.
good. I was like, oh, that is,
That's
yeah,
so cool.
it's just like the dream right there.
Yeah. What was that other Saunders tour? That one of the companies on there had it might have been Milterra maybe, but they had a fully like robotic cell that like raw stock went in and boxed clean demagged parts came out.
I'm blanking. They're in Nebraska. I'm totally
Yeah.
blanking on the company, but it like looks like a Fanuc robot factory, and
Yeah.
they have so many there. Yeah, it's so cool.
hmm But man, the volumes that you need to justify something like that are just like I don't even know where that starts, you know?
Same. Yeah, the kind of contract you have to have like something so ironclad
Yeah,
to be able to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to invest like $10 million into this.
exactly. Because if that goes away and you made that investment, like you're in big trouble. You better find something else that'll work with all those machines and robots that you just bought.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's still so cool seeing like companies like that are still out there and in the US nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Like I expect to see, well, I mean, maybe not that many robots, but that many people in like a factory in China, but certainly not, Nebraska.
yeah. It's cool that some people are doing it here too. And that guy, I think his name might have been Scott, the owner over there, or one of the owners. He was showing some parts that were like, they were just like castings with a couple features turned on them or whatever. And they couldn't be like high margin parts. They're probably making like $3 or $4 a part or whatever. But it's happening here because like they're being smart about it and doing it with robots and whatnot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, it was Metal
Those things
Quest.
usually, yeah, Metal Quest, yeah, because all that stuff usually just goes straight to China. In fact, this production job that I'm running right now came out of China because of just the way that like global shipping is right now. Like stuff's taking like way longer to get across the ocean, so they like weren't able to get parts, so they're making them locally now.
That's awesome.
And yeah, they'll probably go back to China eventually, but I'm trying to kind of work it with them. Like, what do you guys need on pricing to keep this here? Because I'd love to get into like a real automation scenario with those parts where they'll just come off the machine.
Oh yeah. Well, and Haas has all of the robot kits now that are like so insanely priced compared to the other companies out there.
Yeah, I do like that Fanuc kit that they have, and it looks pretty easy to program too. Like you can just program it with the hand pendant, and like I mean, like I've seen like actual Fanuc arm programming, and it's like not easy. But
It's
yeah,
insane.
exactly. But Haas slaps their GUI over it, and everybody knows Haas is pretty easy to operate. So yeah, that's cool. I don't really know how I feel about their like gantry loaders and stuff.
Yeah,
Those
what is it?
they look kind of janky.
APL or something?
Yeah, they like look like they take up a lot of space, and they're like all 80/20 extrusion. I don't know.
I mean, I guess if they're I've never priced one out, so they must be pretty significantly cheaper than a Fanuc arm, but
Yeah,
uh
I don't know that they
I
are,
don't know.
man. But I mean, they look pretty easy to set up. But I just feel like it's the same thing with everything. But you've got to have like a really specific part to run it on there.
Yeah, because it takes like, I mean, the robots are already pretty specific, like to parts, and then it makes it
Hmm.
even more specific. Like you have no degrees of flexibility, really.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can do that, or you can get the a robot arm. But like even if you do, like it's not gonna be like robot takes part out, puts part in. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be stuff that happens, like a chip is on the parallels, and like maybe you've got some blowers to load that chip off, but that's not gonna work all the time. And it's just like you know, it like kind of sounds easy to grab a robot and throw it on the machine, and it's just like doing its thing. But I know that it's just like would never actually be that easy.
Oh no, definitely not. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what John from Way of the Mill and I talked about a bunch. Is that like it's
Oh
everything
yeah, that's right. I
you
remember.
don't consider, like, oh, the your coolant went dry and all of a sudden you broke
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
single tool, and then your robot reached in there and broke a end
Yep.
effector on the tool, and
Nightmare.
yeah. But still, I mean, I just went on Haas's website and like, yeah, their smallest robot arm is 50 grand, which is like insane for a full Fanuc arm system.
Yeah, yeah, and you're getting all that software behind it too, which I is probably where like a lot of the cost comes from because I don't know what a Fanuc robot arm costs, but I know that like a UR arm is like a UR10 is like 50 grand or something, and they're like pretty pricey, I think, compared to a lot of other stuff you can get.
Yeah, cobots are significantly more expensive than traditional arms, I think.
Yeah, they got the buzzword pricing attached to them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's really cool. So, any other fun toys show up?
I think that might be about it. I got a vapor hone a while back, but that's just a wet sandblaster.
How do you like yours though? Because I've thought about those. I know they have the wet bead blaster ones
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. I got the Weekend Warrior, which is kind of like their entry level, like their cheaper one, and it was about 3 grand, I think. But it's cool, man. Like I really don't like sandblasting, just because like all that dust and like it's like a traditional kind of bead blast or sandblast finish kind of tends to hold fingerprints, and the vapor hone, like it really keeps the dust down because it's wet. Like you're not breathing all that garbage in. It just seems to be a lot cleaner, and the finish just seems to be better too. Like it won't take fingerprints like a dry blaster will. It just seems a lot more consistent too. Like you really have to. I mean, you still have to put work in to get a nice consistent finish on like a big flat surface,
Hmm.
but it doesn't feel like as much of a pain as dry blasting. And threads don't seem to pack up with garbage like it does in dry blasting either,
Yeah, because
which is
I mean
nice.
that's my biggest like bugaboo with bead blasting right now is cleaning the parts like post and pre blasting.
Yeah, like you really got to plug your threads, or you're gonna have to like it's just miserable trying to get all that junk out, in dry blasting.
Yeah.
That
Oh yeah.
is.
Well, and like you said, like you touch it accidentally with your hands, and all of a sudden you've got this dark mark that you just can't get out.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what that chemistry is, but yeah, that's annoying. It doesn't really do
Yeah.
it in wet blasting. One drawback though is that I've got the closed loop system on mine, which is an add-on. So that thing uses water. It's a wet blaster, and you can get an open loop system where like you constantly feed fresh water in, and then you have to drain the old water out.
Hmm.
And like I don't have a drain that would be accessible for doing that, and I don't really want to feed water to it. So I got the closed loop system. But I live in Florida. It's pretty hot in the shop on most days, and it evaporates out pretty quick. So pretty much anytime I want to use it, like I've got to add water to it. It'd be better in an air conditioned environment for sure. But yeah.
Okay. That's a good note. But yeah, I saw Imago, that shop
Hmm.
got it also recently, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of vapor hone, and then I went
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole, and I was like, oh man, this might be something I want. So it's good to hear another success story.
Yeah, it's a nice system. Anodized looks pretty cool on top of Bead Blast, so that's fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I love well bead blasted parts, but like keeping everything clean is just, it's so imperative with dry bead blasting, and it's such a
Mm-hmm.
pain in the ass.
Yep, it really is. Yeah, and like going back to zometry too, like you get the occasional zometry job that requires bead blasting, so that opens up a bit more capability for you. It's kind of a shame to see a good job on there that you can't take because you don't have a bead blaster. So
Yeah, same
just
with
another
like
tool in the tool
laser
belt.
and all
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Laser mark. Mm.
That's awesome. So did you buy the laser for a specific part, or was it more just like, I know I'm going to use this if I buy it?
Yeah, it was. I know I'm going to use it. The customer I mentioned that does industrial automation. They make name tags for all their machines, and like I don't really charge a lot for those. I mean, I was making them on the VF2 with like you may have seen that like it's like plastic sheet and it has like a really thin layer of like black on top of it that you could like scratch off with like a knife or something. Yeah, I was using that to make their name tags and just charging them like $50 a piece or something. But I'm going to start getting like send cut send laser cut tags like 40 at a time, get them anodized and start making their tags that way. So that's not like a huge margin thing or anything, but really it's kind of fun. It looks cool, and it's just something nice for those guys because they send me a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a value
And
added service. It totally makes sense.
yeah, and it's cool. Like if you guys follow Alton Instruments, like he makes a lot of his own gauge pens for like random size stuff, and he'll laser mark them all with the diameters and stuff like that. So that's cool too. I'm kind of wondering if I can actually like instead of and like I've got all of my gauges labeled with the gauge number. I'm kind of wondering if I can laser mark gauge numbers on all of my tools. That would be cool because the stickers, like the calibration stickers, are kind of tricky on a lot of tools. Like kind of hard to find a spot for them.
Yeah, even the small ones, they're
Yeah,
definitely a pain, and
yeah, and
they
they
get
come off and stuff. And
exactly. Yeah, I did get served an ad on Instagram for a company that makes only calibration stickers. I'm trying to remember what they were called though.
yeah, I think I might have gotten them too. Actually, I think I probably bought some from them.
But I was like, oh, I guess I should get those.
Yeah, yeah, and that quality is a deep rabbit hole, man. Like I was just looking for like calibration stickers. And like just that, it's like, oh my God, there's so many choices. You got circle, you got square, you got stickers with gauge ID,
Yeah,
you
you got
got like
branded ones.
self-laminating branded ones.
Yeah, so it was qclabels.com. I just
Yeah,
found it.
yep. That's the one.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was going through the stories and saw it, and I was like, man, I didn't know I needed this, but I guess I should. Like,
Yeah. But implementing all that stuff, it feels kind of cool. Like it's kind of a pain in the ass, but when you do it, you're like, man, my shop's kind of real.
yeah. I mean,
I'm doing real work.
it's nice to be able to approach a customer with that kind of information. Like Jonathan from Core Print Pattern said the same thing about his certification, that it was like, it gets your foot in the door and it's one less block for somebody to kick you out. So
Yep. Yeah, actually, I think it's been mentioned a few times on here, like ISO is not really going to like open any doors for you, like per se. Like you're not immediately going to get different work just because you got your ISO cert, and it's not going to make you a better machinist necessarily. But the other day, I did get just a random email out of the blue from somebody from, I forget what the company was, but the email was like, "Are you guys ISO certificate or ISO certified? And if so, which certification do you have?" And I was like, "Nope, we're not." Never heard from them again. So,
yep.
you know,
Yeah.
it can help.
Are you planning on getting ISO or AS certified?
Yeah, I definitely want to. And we can kind of blend that into the what are you researching question.
Yeah. So let's wrap up the episode with the question I always ask: what are you researching?
Yeah, so I'm really looking heavily into ERP right now, which is kind of funny because like I'm a one person shop. I think it's maybe more traditional to have, a lot of employees and then try to implement an ERP system. But I kind of want to have something in place before I have a bunch of employees. It's going to be a lot easier to implement like when it's just me.
Yeah, it'll never be easier than right now.
Exactly, yeah. So I want to get that done. And the system I'm looking at, probably the closest right now is Fulcrum.
Okay, past
Yeah.
guest of the podcast.
Yeah, Fulcrum looks pretty good. I looked at, what's that other popular one? Not Job Boss. ProShop. And, ProShop does everything and stuff, but it's like, if anybody knows of like the CAD system NX,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the NX of like the ERP world, it's like, looks pretty clunky, very archaic. It looks like Windows XP, and I don't know. It's like, I kind of want something to have a nice interface that it's going to be easy for me to use and it's going to be easy to teach people.
Yeah, that was the thing that really struck me about Fulcrum was how new it looked, for sure.
Yeah, it looks good. Like I should have mentioned this earlier. I've got paperless parts. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of it, but I've never really understood what it actually is.
Yeah, so paperless parts. I mean, I guess let me back up. Like a lot of engineers really love Xometry because they can like upload their parts and they get their instant price, right? Paperless parts is the same thing pretty much, but it's internal to my shop. So people can upload parts and drawings. Like on my website, you can go click get a quote, and you can upload all your stuff directly. And paperless parts will quote those parts for me, like the same way Xometry does. So I mean, like that being said, like it's not going to be perfect every time, but it does also help me keep like all of my parts and stuff in one place, and it does give me a pretty good baseline price for a lot of stuff. It won't really do material pricing like seamlessly, so you have to put that in manually,
Okay.
but yeah, it'll give me like a pretty accurate price on simple-ish parts.
So does that, it just sends you the quote and then you review it and send it to your customer?
Yeah. So I mean, well, no, actually, it's like a web app, and it doesn't tell the customer the price immediately. So that is the difference between paperless and Xometry. Like they'll upload their parts, and I'll get like an email notification, and it'll say, "Hey, a new RFQ received," and I'll go look at it. It's a web app, so I can open it up on any computer, look at the parts, spin them around in 3D, look at like the paperless part suggested price, and kind of base. I can like adjust it off there, and then once the quote's finalized, like I can hit send quote, and the customer, like it's kind of like an e-commerce like checkout screen. Like the parts all come up in 3D, and they can like look at their parts, and they can see all the individual prices and the price breaks and like expedite fees and stuff like that. And they can check out immediately with a credit card if you're into that. I mean, you got to pay a credit card fee, or they can check out with a purchase order. So like younger engineers kind of get that like Xometry, but they go through me.
That's awesome. Is it expensive?
It's not too bad. I think it's 300 a month, but I mean, it speeds up quoting just a lot. If you get a package of parts that's like 10 or 15 parts, like that might take you all day to quote that.
It's the worst.
Like
As a small shop as well, I 100% attest to that.
yeah, like it'll take you a long time, whereas like I could turn that through paperless in probably an hour or two pretty easily
Wow.
if I'm being careful.
Okay, that's really good to know because that is definitely one thing that I struggle with right now is finding the time for all the quoting.
Yeah, it can really, and when you're one man, it's like if you really want to make a good quote, you can't be running the machine at the same time exactly because like, I mean, at least I can't. My brain doesn't. It can't do both.
I feel super lucky whenever I have like really long cycle times and I have to quote a bunch of work. It's like, oh, I can do this like for 30 or 45 minutes between parts, but like, man, if I'm running 5 or 10 minute ops, nope.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that I've got my fiance's brother up here helping me right now, and that's just been great having somebody to press the button because I can answer emails and make phone calls and quote parts and stuff.
Awesome.
It's been difficult trying to do both for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like, definitely keep me updated on if you get Fulcrum or what you end up with, because that's something I'd love to buy and go down,
Yeah.
In the future here, because like you, I'm a small shop. Maybe I don't really need it, but like, there's no better time to do it than when you're small and it's easy to
Yeah.
implement.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I didn't go really like full circle on the point of that earlier, like the whole like AS 9100, ISO 9001. I kind of feel like you really want to have ERP in place before you do that as well. Because I mean, like you're going to not be able to keep your documents straight if you don't have somewhere to put them.
Yeah.
Like Google Drive's not going to cut it in this for this kind of, for, something like that.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do like, what are they called? First articles. I forget the fancy designation for those, but you can do first articles and Fulcrum and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
tool calibration reports, all that cool stuff. So
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and to play devil's advocate, that it was one thing that I really liked about the Pro Shop package is that you can buy that whole AS pre-packaged thing more or less. Like they'll give you all the documents, you just need to fill
that's
it in
true.
with your stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So
I need to like get a company to come in and tell me what they want to squeeze me for to help me implement. Like I don't know what that runs really. Probably not cheap.
yeah, I don't
But I mean, I
remember
don't know.
pricing,
Like being
but
yeah, like being a one man shop, like it might not be too bad. I don't know.
yeah, I mean like you said, I would just have them come in or do a web demo and show you everything you need and then give you a price.
Yeah. Yeah, but I got pricing on Fulcrum too. I don't know if they want me to say it, but it's pretty reasonable actually. So maybe here within the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 months or something, and then hopefully like start ISO before the end of the year. That would be
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I've always been told about ISO is, or AS, whatever it is, you only have to do what you say you're going to do. And so say as little
Exactly.
as possible to satisfy the standard.
Yep. Use those for reference only stickers
Yeah, exactly.
everywhere.
Leave yourself an out pretty much anytime you need it.
Yeah, I think like the ideal scenario is like for reference only stickers on everything in your shop, and then just have a CMM that does all of your real measurements. Because like if you're trying to make ISO parts, they probably got like true position and like center to center hole distances and stuff that can be kind of hard to measure with traditional tooling. So you might as well just do it all on the CMM anyways.
Oh yeah. Well, even like a nice digital height gauge. I was talking last week to Ed Kramer, and he's got a really nice Trimos, and like
Mm,
we've got a Tesla one at work, and they're fantastic for stuff like that, like hole to hole or datum to a hole, as long as it's not like an odd
yeah,
shaped part. Like those things for the price, I will 8 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10 go to the height gauge before I go to the CMM at work because
just for like
like
ease of use.
yeah, like as long as you have a reference, a granite surface plate to
True.
reference from, it's so much faster. Like your datum setup is like, oh, I double tap the surface plate and now my zero set and I just go and pick up a hole.
Yeah, Saunders used to show off that Mitutoyo one that he had. I haven't seen that thing on his YouTube in a while, but I think I was looking at that thing on MSC and it was like 13 grand or something. So I mean, that's a lot less than like a real CMM unless you get one for 1200 like you did. But
Yeah, well, but
you know,
like I mean, I think the Tessa, as long as you don't get one with the automatic movement, they're like
hmm
4 or 5 grand, something like
yeah,
that. And I think the Trimos, depending on the level, are either between 3 and 10, something like that. So yeah, they're significantly less expensive, and they're
yeah,
not a one size fit all. You're not going to be doing 3D true positions to other things, but for most things, prismatic parts, you're going to love it.
yeah. That's cool. Yeah, getting into quality is kind of tough when you start getting into like high level stuff because I mean, a nice CMM can be like 80 grand, 100 grand. It's like, damn, I could have another VF2 for that.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, the biggest thing is like just because you're ISO or AS doesn't mean you have to like do all that stuff. Like
hmm
it has to do a lot more with your customer requirements. So if they're not
for
asking
sure.
for, sample plans on all your delivered parts, well, maybe you don't need a CMM.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, this aerospace customer I got, they told me they're like, you're not like a licensed FAA repair station. So like, as far as the FAA is concerned, you can't certify a part anyways. So I mean, we've got to do all the inspections. So you just make it and inspect it with like your calibrated tooling, kind of half-ass, and then I mean, we have to do all the actual work. So you know, yeah, it's kind of like you said, like that customer, the requirements are pretty basic.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that when it comes down to it, as much as I think we'd all love a fancy auto CMM with a 5 axis head and scanning and all that, like if your customer doesn't ask for it, definitely don't buy one.
Yeah, that, and I think that when you actually have that thing and you're using it, that's just like another chore to do in the shop.
Oh yeah.
It's like now I
Well,
got to go program this damn CMM again.
and you have to learn exactly how to set the machine up so that you're like CMMs are total garbage in, garbage out. So like if you
Yeah,
program a garbage program and don't pick up your datums correctly and don't report your true positions correctly, you might all of a sudden have a bunch of bad parts that when you first checked them weren't bad.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And then it's probably the same thing as like a CNC mill. You buy that mill for 80 grand, and then it's like, oh, I got to spend another 30 or 40 in tool holders and everything else. You got to get all your setup blocks and stuff with your CMM probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Setup blocks, fixture plates, probe
Yep.
changers, all that stuff. So
God.
awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Juan.
Yeah,
It
it's been
was
fun.
great to get to talk to you about everything and kind of learn more. I've been following you on Instagram for a while, but it's always nice to get put a voice to the Instagram handle kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And real quick before we close, I got some Patreon thank yous of new patrons: John Miller, JT from DFM Toolworks, Ben Carlson from Fort Manufacturing, Heinz Speed Components, and Greg Koenig from Luma Labs. Thank you guys for joining the Patreon. I really appreciate it. It keeps the podcast going and keeps me able to sub out a little bit more of the work and keep the fun in it. So thanks everyone for being a patron. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week.